Thank you for joining us. This is the first episode of the series, The Soul Food Initiative. Joining me is the crew from the Department of Strategic Communication and Media, and my name is Dr. Fadoua Loudiy. So today I will make a dish based on eggplant and another dish, kind of a desserty dish with apples. So all of these dishes that I'll be making are part of our collaboration with the McCoskey Center and our attempt to explore the connection between food and culture and how food in all culture is such an important aspect of the livelihood of people and their heritage. So these eggplant that you can see here, they're from a farm just down the road. It's the Glacial Till Farms. So the McCoskey Center is actually collaborates with nearby farms. They exchange produce and different kind of herbs as a community endeavor. So I'm going to get started by slicing. I already washed the eggplant, so I'm going to start by slicing it, put it in the pan with some oil and some ingredients. Also, some people put, and you could put some salt on top of it to absorb the water. I skipped that step. I don't think it's necessary. As I suggested, I am originally from Morocco, so that's my country of birth. And to celebrate my country of birth, I bought some olive oil from Morocco, which you can see here. So Morocco is a big producer of olive oil. All right, so I'm going to pour about 2 to 3 tablespoons of olive oil in the pan and let it get hot. So before we actually put the eggplant in the pan, I'm going to use some garlic. This is about 4 teaspoons of garlic. So in addition to the eggplant, we're going to add some peppers from the McCoskey Center, the produce that they grow here. We can get rid of some of this garbage here. And also a few tomatoes. So while I'm waiting for the garlic, I'm going to, I hope these are not too hot. Gonna taste. Not hot. That was brave of me, by the way. All right, so I'm going to put the peppers here. And you can hear it, it's already starting to sizzle. So you can put as many peppers as you'd like. I guess I will put the tomato about now so that it starts melting as well with the onions. Not the onions, the peppers. And now I'm going to turn the heat a little down so that the garlic does not burn. I will actually add 1 more pepper because we have so many, or a couple more, why not? So we're actually, unfortunately you cannot smell it, but we're starting to smell garlic and the tomatoes. And now it's time to add the eggplant. So we're going to add bit by bit. All right. All right, so now is time for the fun parts. Spices. Those vegetables will not taste that great without some spicing. So the most important spice in cooking, if you call it a spice, it's actually salt. And I like to use coarse salt. This is sea salt, kosher coarse sea salt, because it is more flavorful than your industrial type of salt. Whoa, that's a lot of salt. I'm not gonna put all of that, but I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle some on the eggplant. So this is the cumin. I'm going to be using paprika, coriander, a tiny bit, well, actually a lot of chili powder, and just a tiny bit of cinnamon and some black pepper. So we'll start with the cumin. And cumin is a spice that originated in Egypt and the Middle East, and it traveled. A lot of cultures use cumin. It's one of the most used spice in the world. Mexicans use it as well in their dishes, the Spanish. And cumin is a very powerful spice, so you need to use it sparingly. Next one I'm going to put is paprika, and I'm actually going to put a lot of paprika, because paprika not only gives flavor, but it also gives color to the food. So I'm going to take the lid off to allow for easy pouring of the paprika. So you'll see it's the opposite of cumin. Cumin, you need to be a little stingy, but with the paprika, just be as generous as you can be. So paprika actually originated in North America. It's made from peppers that are grown in North America, in the United States and Mexico. And it traveled later on to other countries. So next I'm gonna use coriander, and coriander is the ground form of cilantro. So when cilantro turns into seed, it becomes coriander, and then it's ground and you can use it in a variety of dishes. We're going to put a little bit of pepper. Oops, maybe too much, but it's gonna be okay. And next is some chili powder. And again, kind of generous, depending on how spicy you like your food. And the last item or spice is cinnamon, and cinnamon just a tiny bit to give it some sweetness. So we are done with our spices. Now it's time to mix it all. See, the garlic, the peppers and tomatoes are already melted, and now they're going to infuse the eggplant with their flavor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover this and just let it simmer, and the eggplant, the tomato, the peppers and the spices are going to get to know each other a little intimately. So, and I'm going to move on to couscous, which will be served with the eggplant, and I'm actually just gonna eyeball it. Let's see how many cups total. 12, okay, 4, a little more. Okay. And I'm going to flavor this couscous. First, salt, most important spice or additive to your food. And for this couscous, I'm going to use some saffron. This is my favorite spice. So we're going to turn this to high until it boils, and then we're going to turn it down, cover it and turn it down. So while we're doing that, we're going to check on our eggplant and see how it's doing. Seems to be cooking along. And you can already smell the fragrance of the mixed spices. It needs some more time to cook. And I think I'm actually gonna add a little bit more olive oil. That was funny, I smelled the olive oil, it's like wine. Because olive oil has specific smells depending on the region that it's grown in. And Morocco is a very big producer of olive oil because of the climate. Just like Spain, Greece, and Italy, those are the major producers of olive oil in the world. So while this is cooking, I'm going to start on our dessert. It's not a crumble, it's something I just kind of decided to make this morning. It's apples, since it's fall already. So it is concoction of apples with some saffron, some cinnamon, and that's going to be served with plain Greek yogurt. Just a nice way to clean one's palate after the eggplant and the couscous. And just like our other vegetables that we used earlier, these are organic organic apples, so I will not be peeling them. So for the eggplant, the next step for that dish will be to add some cilantro. That's kind of to finish it. I have first to taste it to make sure that the salt and the spices are just right. Then I'll chop up some cilantro, and then we'll add some feta cheese. And feta is not a typical Moroccan cheese. We have some cheese that is similar. It's called jbin, and that's like made traditionally. It resembles feta, but it's not quite. Feta is a little harder in terms of the consistency of the cheese. But jbin is a type of cheese that is made mostly in the mountains where they grow goats in Morocco. Another thing that they use goats for actually in Morocco, this is kind of funny, is the argan oil. I don't know if you probably heard about the argan oil. It's an oil that's now used pretty commonly in cosmetics and for hair purposes. That's an oil that's produced with the help of goats in Morocco. It's actually, most of the argan oil in the world comes from Morocco and now from Israel, because a lot of Israelis actually used to live in Morocco. There was a lot of Jewish people who immigrated to Israel in the 1960s, 1970s. So they took with them some of their traditions and things that they were used to in their homeland, which is Morocco. So we have to check on our eggplant, see how things are going. Seems like it's cooking pretty well. So we're going to cover it again. Go a bit high. And we're going to put some butter. So 1 and 2. Okay. And once the butter melts, we're going to drop our apples to start cooking. So it starts to sizzle somewhat, so I'm gonna add the apples. Voila. And then we're going to put some saffron and some cinnamon. I love cinnamon. It's such a fall spice. You have to use saffron rather sparingly because it is a very potent spice. So I'm crunching it. Some people put it in water to dilute it, I just like to put it straight like that. I like the texture of the threads because it's all like threads, like these bright red threads. Some cinnamon. You could potentially add some sugar if you want, or honey. I am not big on sugar, so I just like the sugar of the apples to do its thing, and they're going to get a little bit caramelized with the apples releasing their sugar. So while that's doing its thing, I'm going to, so what I like to do to finish this dish is use sliced almonds, and before I use them I like to roast them a little bit just on the stove, give them some crunch. So I'm going to put a little bit here, whoops, some almonds, sliced almonds, and we're going to, you have to be very careful to do this on the stove because they can burn very quickly. It happens fast. So we have to check on our eggplant and see how it's doing. It's actually doing awesome. It still needs to sit in its water. And we have to stir the almonds so that they don't burn. So as you can see, the apples are starting to turn yellowish. That's from the saffron releasing its color. I'm going to try to cover it so that it can cook in its steam. It's a pretty big lid, but it does the job. It's like a sombrero for the pan. So I'm just going to use, for eggplant, I'm going to use oregano and basil. So you just take a little bit, few sprigs, and you just crunch them. Crunch, crunch, crunch. It's fun. And oregano is actually a very healthy herb. All herbs are healthy, and it smells terrific. We have all these kind of rigid notions about food and what we can use for what, and we're not used to mixing herbs with fruit, but actually, why not? I'm also going to add some basil on the eggplant and a little bit on the apples. And the last herb I'm going to use is the lavender. I'm going to use that for the apples. Lavender is an herb that helps you sleep. So if you're struggling to sleep, put some lavender on your pillow or make some lavender tea. Almonds are done. Apples are getting caramelized. They're really, really looking very pretty. Going to cover them, let them do their thing. And let's check on the eggplant. It's also doing really nice. And I think it's done. The eggplant is actually done. Couscous is almost done as well. It cooks at the same time as everything else. Going to turn the stove down on the apples. And now I'm going to chop up some cilantro. And I'm gonna share with you a funny story about cilantro, because cilantro makes you sleep. So once I was in Morocco one summer and I was at the beach, came back from the beach and made some food used some cilantro, and then I had a bunch of cilantro left. Like, what can I do with this cilantro? So I made tea, cilantro tea. And guess what happened? It made me drowsy. I could not get up for like the whole day. And I didn't realize that cilantro actually makes you very, very sleepy. So don't make cilantro tea. That's the moral of the story, because it can ruin your day. And I couldn't go to the beach that day, so it was pretty annoying. And I couldn't actually figure out at first what was going on. I thought there was something wrong with me. I was sick, but I shared it with my mom. She said, oh, well, your cilantro, that's what caused you to be sleepy. So we're going to add this parsley and cilantro. Parsley, on the contrary, is full of vitamin C, does not make you sleepy. So go ahead, it detoxifies your body. So go ahead and have as much parsley tea as you want, because it's good for you. I mean, they're both good for you. It's just you should not have cilantro tea. That is all. So I'm adding the cilantro to the eggplant. Cilantro and parsley, actually. It adds some color. So feta just adds some texture, taste, and little tanginess. So just a little bit. Oops. A little bit in my book is generous. So I think that is good. We can mix it up a little bit. All right, so the eggplant dish is done. Let's check on the apples. They're looking good. See what's going on. It's a little bit al dente. As I said earlier, couscous is pretty much Moroccan pasta, same thing. And if you know orzo, orzo is very similar to couscous. Ooh, I'm very happy with my apples. They look really pretty. I think it's time to start plating. I'm actually going to add some lemon to the apples to give them some freshness. So I like to mix the apples with some yogurt, some Greek yogurt. Just plain Greek yogurt. You can use vanilla if you'd like. I grew up eating a lot of yogurt in Morocco. It's a staple in our food. Every night you have yogurt because it's good for you. So yogurt in the United States, I discovered, is very different. It's very sweet. It's almost like dessert, whereas in Morocco it was more like a healthy food. So we are going to start serving. All right, so we're going to put some yogurt here. All right, put it aside. And we're going to scoop some apples. Obviously, you can use ice cream if you'd prefer. That could work as well. All right. And then we're going to put some almonds on top. Going to put some couscous at the bottom. So a little bit. And then we're going to top it with the eggplant. And you can have some meat with this. This is vegetarian, but you can totally add an egg on top. You can add some chicken or some fish or whatever protein you'd like. So here we go. And then I'm going to put some feta just to decorate.